So you might be thinking to yourself, what in the world is that? Well, to be honest, it's something I started a few days ago, and I made a total pig's ear of it. Now there are some elements on it I actually quite like, so I'm going to see if I can work some magic into this and create a solution that actually works for it. So stick around and let's see what we can do. All right, so I've started the process. What I've got here is basically some paint that I pulled off of a canvas that I wasn't happy with. It's basically junk paint. It go down the trash, but instead of putting it in the trash, with the theme of recycling, that's exactly what I'm doing. Now, granted, what I'm doing here is not going to find itself on a gallery wall anywhere anytime soon. And I'm sure you'd be the first ones to tell me that. But what this allows me to do is experiment. Because basically every piece of equipment that you've got is a tool when it comes to acrylic art. And even if this just becomes something that I put on the garage wall, or maybe even in the trash can, or maybe even I just do the whole painting all over again, it's an exercise in learning. And that's the beauty of acrylic painting. Everything is a lesson. Salmon wouldn't be my first color choice for a background, but while we're here, let's see what damage we can do. And if this can actually be saved. With a little bit of creative thinking. As you can already tell, the pieces that I like about this are the gold chunks in the middle of the painting, the gold on the burgundy. And I kind of like that blue background. That's the phthalo blue. And it did some interesting things in terms of cell creation, but they didn't expand the way I wanted them to. So I'm stuck with them in the middle. But if I can rescue this little thing, I think I can make those the focal point of the painting. So wish me luck. Here I go. Let's get rid of some of this mud that we see. I'm trying to be deliberate with how I go into these areas. So keep some of the nice stuff like the gold and the burgundy. I really like that. But you're kind of limited in some ways, I think. Maybe I'll think of another tool I can use later on. Another thing you can do is kind of marbleize your wasted paint. So basically throw it on a canvas, put something else with it, and kind of create a marble effect on the canvas. I've seen a number of different artists do that. The background's quite stunning. When it's pulled off successfully, for now, I'm just trying to cover some space here. Not too worried about the sides at the moment, as you can tell. Just want to put some coverage on the main piece. I'll come back to that later. All right, well, I'm going to keep this going. I heard my wife coming down the stairs, so I put it on pause, forgot to restart. Because I kind of knew I had something coming my way in terms of a chore or a phone call or something to deal with. So I'm back. I've done a little bit more. And I'm just going to keep this going. Tomorrow, I'm planning a really nice piece of art. I've seen demos of this online, and I can't wait to give it a shot. So, heads up, watch this channel, hit that subscribe button, and you'll get notification as to when, hopefully, I post that. I'll probably do a live, well, maybe not a live version, but I'll certainly record it. And if it turns out to be terrible, you just won't see it. You won't get notified. It's that simple. But this is a journey, and I found it fun. I've watched so many different artists. I've also spent quite a bit of cash on figuring out how to do things the wrong way. You know what it's like, you watch people on YouTube and it looks so easy. But you give it a shot and you make a pig zero of everything, and then you learn that there's something to this. And I will say that a lot of it with acrylic pouring is science more than it is art. Well, that's not fair. There are people that are super creative, creating some amazing stuff out there. But understanding what you're doing with the paint and how the paint needs to feel, the density of it, the thickness, the viscosity, that is 90% of your battle. So, yeah, I don't like that last little bit there. This bit has got to go. Well, the good thing is, I have a fair amount left to do the sides. So what I'm going to do, dip my finger in, and I'm just going to take this around the sides. I'm not going to hover the cup over the top of the painting, which I've done in the past, and spoiled it by dripping paint all over it and feeling like a complete idiot. So, I'm a little bit more methodical. And if I've learned anything from this method, it's you learn from your mistakes very quickly, because they can be quite expensive mistakes. And unless you're a billionaire, which I'm not incidentally, you don't really have funds to throw down the toilet. Look at this, I'm able to wipe this up off the table as it's already come off and reuse it. And it may just be that I have enough paint left to do another base. Wouldn't that be good? You might be seeing the salmon color on a whole bunch of my pieces of art going forward. So where did that color come from, you're probably thinking? Well, I did a couple of Dutch pours yesterday using burgundy and copper, a color I absolutely adore, by the way. Pink and a little white. And it's the paint that ran off the sides. So I scooped it up, put it in a cup, primarily because I thought the patterns that were in the paint were amazing. I could preserve those. But no, that wasn't to happen. I guess I just could have stuck a canvas down. Look at that. Everything's covered. I know the more perceptive of you would have noticed that one. But every last bit of this is now covered. And I'm just gonna end it right there. See what it looks like when it dries. Maybe I'll show you.